she's in her office to help.
There's a chance Joe will be like,
Zach is setting us up for, oh, we're on, we're live, okay.
We're live, so keep that in mind.
Okay, so can I call it to order then, or are we ready to, or are we just getting confirmation on the audio?
Zach says we're good to go.
Okay,
Do we want to wait on Joe or start without Joe?
I say we just go ahead and get started on time, and then we can
let him catch up.
welcome
Sounds
Joe and let him catch up. Do we have a quorum is a question?
We'll not have an in-person forum, so the folks on the screen are not allowed to participate in speaking, but we can text Joe if they have any input and Joe can share it.
Okay.
It doesn't appear that we have one.
Huh?
It doesn't appear that.
No, we do not.
So we do not have a quorum,
You're
so
not recording.
we can only take information at this meeting then, is that right?
Correct, we can't vote on it.
We can't take any actions, right?
We can't vote.
Okay. So that means that I will welcome everyone who is here, and we'll record in the minutes that we do not have a quorum, so we cannot take any action on the minutes. And I don't have a lot of updates. I guess I'm on the agenda to give a summary of the lecture series and about the public office hours that are coming up. So I'll wait until we get that in the agenda. And I guess we'll jump to our detailed design update.
Yeah.
So Jonathan is here in person.
So just kind of moving through the process. It's exciting that the process is the process, and we're going through it. SDs are in. So schematic design, that phase, the architect has submitted the entire book, right? So all the forms, all documents, all the drawings to get us through the SD phase of the project. So this is really the first big check of what we're doing. Post detailed design. So we're just getting going now. So we're, I guess we're closing in on the 3,000 foot to 1,000 foot level of detail. So they've gone back with DEB, so the Department of Engineering and Building. They've gone back and forth with notes. Seems like that process is quickly approaching its end. There is a standard budget check that'll follow that. So there's a CR2 form, which the agency, which I'm responsible for, as we complete the SD process. So we're probably a month into it, month and a half into it, and we probably have about 2 more weeks left of SD design work. Between the conversation, really between the notes that DEB gives our architect and the architect responding to DEB. So everything seems to be going really well. There's some correspondence about the square footage, and that is something Joe may bring up, but I can go ahead and just kind of speak to it. So the awning, the second floor on, it's really in the weeds as far as details go, but the second floor awning, it's on his way. Let's start with that. Second floor awning should be considered more of an 100% than a 50% of the square footage usage. So the DEB is going to try to get us to roll back on that a bit, I believe. So we're either going to have to shrink lobby size, or potentially there's some other options that we can look at. But
Wait, so is that the space of the awning itself, or what's underneath the awning?
So it's not a form of egress. So there is a gray area, which is part of the conversation, is whether the awning should be considered 50% of the square footage should be considered, or 100%. And DEB saying 100% and architect saying 50%.
Okay.
Because it clearly says, in the rules that covered outdoor space should be considered 50%. But there is the other caveat that it is not a form of egress. So people aren't exiting, under a shelter, right? So that's what they're having a conversation about.
Okay.
So it's straightforward. But we're just kind of waiting to see. And if that's the case, then there'll be some square footage from another discussion about square footage usage throughout the building. CO2 review is underway. So CO2 is really just the approval to go to the next phase. So we're already working with Mike Gray at DEB about that, which is exciting. So that would mean that we get as you guys know, they originally had us entered at 21,000 square feet, which was incorrect.
Mhm.
So we're working to get that corrected. So that's pretty big step. And that is always a shock to everybody, but it seems to be something that they're consistently okay with us just proceeding with. All right, just consider it 27,600. Just keep moving forward. So. Guess I can talk about, yeah, so funding, just kind of, I brought the capital budget request and pass that around.
Mhm.
I got 3 of them, funny enough. So this is just kind of start rough drafts of where we go from here. About the middle of the month, there's the legislature's bumped up the time frame. I think try to help with the kind of issues in capital budgeting that we're seeing. Some overruns due to escalation costs due to inflation. So that's definitely slowed projects across the state down, not just our project. So they're having us submit in June instead of the typical October. So that's good news, especially since we're already in the pipeline. And then just on a side note, the museum, of course, has the Early Explorer Center, which is another capital project, but that'll be considered much later in the fall.
Wait, so you're submitting this to who in June?
Department of Planning, but
Okay.
so right now, barring another conversation with our budget analyst, I think we're gonna ask the 39 million to be approved as the new project total. So that's taking the costs that were given to us through schematic design. So the value engineer coming in and doing their work with lobby and homes, and then taking those numbers and resubmitting them to DEB. So, just to let them know, give them a heads up that, yeah, escalation is a real thing. It's happening to us too. We're not the only ones out here. So plan to continue to increase our budget as needed. And there's a formula. So it took the Ohio Fed data and used that to escalate the numbers. So that's where I got the inflation numbers from.
So in terms of the state budget not having been approved yet, right, for the coming,
Correct.
yeah. Any concerns about that? Or you feel like is this a separate from that process?
It is.
Yeah.
So there's the capital budget and then there's the general budget request. Yeah. So if all else fails, just the 2-year, what we're working on now is the next 2-year budget.
Mhm.
Right,
So the current 2-year budget is still approved. So
Right.
the state continues to operate. But yeah, so it's a separate pool of money. So
And the next step for this request would be what? DPP says,
yeah, they say it'll go to the 6-pack again.
okay,
So the 6-pack will say, hey, this is a project that's been previously approved, which you can't tell from that form, but there's about 15 different parts to it where this information goes here, this information goes there, and then it compiles just kind of a PDF printout of everything. Oh, so this is in the category of previously approved projects with funds appropriated accordingly.
Mhm.
So we're in that section of it, I guess, so to speak, which is way better than where it could be. So
and then would they recommend? So if it's for the biennium budget, would they recommend whether it's going to be in the 2024 or 2025 fiscal year?
So we're in 20, so we're moving into 24 right now, right? So
Oh, so
it'll have to be
25, 26,
25, 26.
25 or 26?
Yes,
So they would recommend for one or the other, or would they split it across?
it'll be split. It'll be
Okay.
just like this, where you get phased in.
Mhm.
So it'll be, you get your construction, your drawing money, so you can do the artwork to get your working drawings completed.
Right.
And then when you say, if there's another form we have to fill out, and then we can go to bid out the project to contract.
Mm. So actual construction date?
I could be as early as, what's that, calendar year 2020, spring 2026. That'd be moving now.
Okay, well, that's exciting.
It is very much.
Do you have any status update on the property?
So they are agreeable to move the property over to the state side as we requested. So we're just allowing kind of the city of Waynesboro to use it as a parking lot. So if we were to move it next week,
Yeah,
we could.
yeah,
The money's there. I have it allocated in the capital budget to move it over. But then the city would have to lease it back from the state for $1 a year, or there'd be some agreement that we'd have to go through.
I see.
So we just had a handshake agreement that we would allow the city to continue to use the property until such time as we deem it necessary to start really moving dirt, bringing in the backhoes and really doing all the site work for the construction.
Okay.
Hey, Jonathan. Hey,
Hey, Joe.
hi, everybody.
Hi,
Sorry,
Joe.
sorry I was late. I had some housekeeping had to tend to here. I
No,
also
we don't
related
have
to
a quorum, so we're just taking information for this meeting. So if you have something to share about the detailed planning, that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it is related. Just from the standpoint that the parking situation with the museum, we seem to have a path going forward. So in other words, the state was saying we need to have X number of parking spots on the property, which the property isn't big enough to accommodate that. But there is a path forward to just basically illustrate how many parking spaces are within a certain distance of the museum site, and that will satisfy the state's needs. So there's more than enough parking local to our project that that shouldn't be an issue upcoming.
That's good to know. Yeah, that is good to know. Of course, we continue to get the questions and we'll continue to respond to the questions about parking from the community.
Community doesn't like to walk.
Yeah. Any other questions about the update on our detailed design from folks in the room here?
Any need for us to, I mean, I guess the point of the process is everything is in place. You're just going through the steps at this point, but would there be any need for us to support, promote?
There's always, I would
Right.
say, I need to have the attention drawn to the project. I would
Yeah.
say not the fall is probably a time where we
Okay.
consider, we would organize a letter, Mary Zell, Joe, and myself, would organize just a letter to be sent to the legislature.
Yeah.
So like, you would, there might be something you could add to it for your particular district, but, we just have you guys sign and we'll send those out. And then we try to focus on anybody on the Senate Finance Committee, the House Finance Committee, potentially in-office visit in the fall. But really, we're just asking for the continued support of the project again. Since it's already in law that it has to be built, we're just, offering up the information. We don't want any surprises. We don't want to say, hey, we asked for it was a $19 million budget, now it's $39 million budget. How did that happen? We just want to make sure that nobody gets embarrassed. I think that's the key to keeping our friends.
If we do have the opportunity to speak to legislators, can we share this information?
Absolutely, it's all
Okay.
public. So this is all public record.
Okay,
Probably not this version as it's the rough draft. But
Yeah.
Once I submit, June 22nd,
okay,
I can print it out, send it to you. We can put it in the newspaper if you guys would like to.
all right.
So it's all foilable anyway, but yeah, it's all public record.
We have a question that's come up, and it's about ongoing maintenance costs for the property once it gets transferred over to the state. And Jonathan, please feel free to jump in with any further details, but basically as we expand our holdings as an agency, that will alter positively our maintenance reserve budget. So any ongoing maintenance, which I can't imagine there'd be a lot prior to construction, but I guess you never know. Nonetheless, the maintenance reserve, which does not mean that money can be used for property improvement. It basically means that it can be brought up to the condition it was when the museum obtained it. So that will also further change when a building is put on it. Again, positively, the state will calculate the number of square feet that we maintain and adjust our maintenance reserve budget appropriately.
Absolutely, that's correct. So the department, Department of Real Estate Services will calculate that number.
Okay,
So we need to replace a sidewalk, or we need to fill a pothole, and that's the kind of, we try to do, we do the entire parking lot. This project's $25,000 or more.
right.
And then for this particular project, once it goes through and is approved through this round of the budgetary ask, right? So we go to capital. So we go from detail to the construction pool. There's also there's additional, what's it, 500 and something thousand in O&M costs.
Mhm.
$532,000, which is going in for this biennium to help address kind of those issues, as well as salaries for staff. And that would kick in fiscal year FY26. So really in 2.5 years.
Speaking of maintenance, does the city of Waynesboro have a stormwater tax like we have in Harrisonburg, what we used to call the rain tax regarding impermeable surface?
We do.
Okay, I wondered about that, so I don't know how that factors into this particular facility. I don't know if the state is held to that, state properties are held to that or not, but it's related to the square footage of impervious surface.
Mhm. Yeah, and part of the donation that Waynesboro is making to the project, I believe did include something about utilities. Is that right or not?
I think it's the connection fee. I think they're
Okay.
gonna do the connection for us.
Okay.
Yep.
So a good question would be whether or not they would
Right.
require the stormwater.
Mhm.
As a state property too. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and maybe you can put that on your list of things to ask
I'll absolutely
at some
figure that
point. Good questions, good conversation. I think this is great to hear that continues to move forward and move along. Continued work with Riggs Ward is on
Yeah.
our agenda as well. We haven't talked about that yet. Joe, did you want to provide some
Yeah.
information about?
So Mark Talaforo, and I apologize if I'm butchering his last name. I've never really picked up how to say it properly, I don't think. Anyway, Mark, pardon me?
Tolliver. It's a Virginia thing. It's Tolliver.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Oh my
I'll-
goodness.
I'll write that down on my hand next time. So anyway, Mark, good guy that he is, he has just yesterday established some dates that he would like to continue some conversation. And this is what I'm proposing. So I would, obviously, I want the staff to be involved with this, and also where appropriate, and I'm asking for some details where we should be putting some of our curatorial weight into things. So as this schedule unfolds, there'll be selected times where specific curators should be involved with the conversation. On top of that, we kind of have 3 areas that I want to involve others in. So with these meetings, there are going to be people, Tom, I'd like you to be one of them. You're not only a content expert, Carol, you're the same way, you're a content expert, but you're also heavily involved with the project. So I would like you to have all of the dates available, and you can attend as many as you can. And going back to the curators, where we might have specific dates where specific topics are being discussed. During those dates, I'd like us to look at some of our community partners who are also content experts. That might be the Wayne Theater lecturers and so forth, and bring them in specifically for specific meetings. Furthermore, Mary Zell has been accumulating the PowerPoint slides from past Wayne Theater speakers. So we can use those to kind of help narrow our exhibit content discussions and so forth. So that's where we're at. So I would like to begin sharing these dates once I get a few more details from Mark. And then we're going to begin to dive into the details of what our specific exhibits will look like.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that we're moving forward with Mark on that, and definitely want to participate. So
Yeah.
send
Yeah.
out
No,
the date. I'll make room in my schedule for him.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll be getting, a little more input from Mark, a little more specifics. I can initially share the dates. He doesn't have times picked yet, but I can share the dates that he is suggesting that proceed through the summer into the fall for continued discussion. So that way you can begin to look at your calendar.
That'd be great. Any other questions about the work with Riggs Ward on the exhibit design? So this is kind of the next one of the parts of our detail design, right?
Yes, so that's like the transition from schematic design to preliminaries. So you're just narrowing that focus.
I still haven't gotten my head around all the language. schematic design,
You need a glossary.
preliminary design, detailed design.
Just every one of them just a budget check.
Okay.
All right, what does this cost? All right, now
It's
what
the
does it cost?
acronyms that get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got DPV down now. I don't remember the one about the property, but Jonathan is doing a great job keeping us on track there. And I hope you're getting some support from our JMU colleagues on that as well. There's a lot of experience.
Yeah, very nice. Great.
Good. So we'll move to the lecture series. We are in prep for another season of lectures at the Wayne Theater, hosted by, in combination, the Center for Cold Waters Restoration and the museum, with support from what's now called the South River Watershed Coalition. And we also heard about some funding that became available, I think, through the Museum Foundation to support these lectures. So we've got quite a team putting together these lectures. And right now we have, I think, committed September, October, and November lectures. They include someone about a hawk watch, and somebody who's active with the bird. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, with the Augusta Bird Club.
Mhm.
In October, our own curator from the museum, Ariana Kuhn, is going to come up and talk about herps. And then in November, Heller, not Sam Heller, Matt Heller.
Matt Heller.
Sam is his
Geology,
son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Heller is going to talk about geology. And I know he's been very actively involved with the digital mapping project for Virginia. So I encouraged him to share some of that with us. Of course, we take off on December, so we don't have any commitment there because of the holidays. And then we pick up again in January, February, March, and April. So we haven't committed those dates yet. I know Carol had offered
Mhm.
to lecture
Mhm.
for one of those dates. I don't know if we settled on one yet,
Mhm.
but we'll look at that. Yeah, so Joe, do you want to give us more, that you're on the agenda to say something about grant and other support for the lecture series?
Yeah, it was a local grant from the Community Foundation of the Blue Ridge. That is going, they didn't give us the full amount that we asked for, but Ryan had made the suggestion of taking what we are getting and pumping that into further marketing of the lecture series to try and draw the larger audience, both online and in person.
And so what would those monies go towards?
A lot of it would go to
Advertising it?
Yeah, a lot of it will go towards Facebook advertisement. So I think that's going to be, the social media aspect will be one of our more powerful tools that we can utilize.
Great.
So yeah, that's where the majority of it will go.
And I think that would really benefit the series, because I think we haven't done as good a job as we could in advertising that and making the public more aware that these are opportunities for them to come out and hear about regional science topics. So that's great. Any questions about the lecture series? Other comments? We did talk about perhaps having a road show of some kind where we might invite the audience to bring objects that perhaps the curatorial staff would help them to identify, and have it a little bit more interactive. And maybe that would be part of one of the lectures, or maybe that would be in place of one of the lectures, or maybe it would be altogether something else. So we're still thinking about that. I am holding public office hours. I haven't gotten away from calling them office hours yet. I guess I still have the faculty mindset. But so I'm gonna hold hours again on the third Friday of this month, which is June 16th or something like that, I think. And so that'll be from 4 to 5 o'clock as usual in the Waynesboro Public Library, and hoping that we'll get some more folks coming out. You know, we get half a dozen to as many as 15, I think, at one of those. So each contact is important, and we've been trying to capture those people and add them to our distribution list for sharing information about the project and the museum. One idea that I have, and I shared this just recently, and Mary Zell sent it out to everyone, was to try to engage the community a little bit, and I want your thoughts about this, on what should be the name for the new Natural History Museum in Waynesboro. And I've just been cogitating on this a little bit. I'm imagining myself driving down I-81 or 64 and seeing a sign along the road similar to what we see like the Frontier Culture Museum. What is that sign going to say that captures people's attention and also conveys what the museum's intent is? And it's quite a mouthful to say Virginia Museum of Natural History, Waynesboro campus. So I'm just trying to think about whether there's an opportunity to come up with an alternate name. And I don't know whether we have any restrictions from the state's perspective on including Virginia Museum of Natural History, which of course is what it is, what our agency is, how much freedom, how much leeway we have in naming it something like the Shenandoah Valley Museum of Natural History or something like that. Is there, first, I guess I'd like to know whether we see any roadblocks that considering other names.
So I think it just depends on the lift. Virginia Museum of Natural History Waynesboro is what is approved right now.
Yeah,
So that's what the project is. Any other name would need to be approved.
okay,
So just like anything, ARB will probably have they would like to say something about it, and then BEB would do. And I think the further you get away from Virginia being in it, is probably the first. But an area of Virginia, not as hard as, you know, if somebody gave us $5 million as a company, that would be it. We would need to get legislative approval to name it the Great Kitchens
Dominion.
Waynesboro. So yeah, right.
so does it make sense to even entertain this idea, or should we just stay with what we got? I guess that's what I'm trying to bring up.
Are you thinking you would use this as a way of eliciting responses from visitors during the office hours, or?
Yes, I'm thinking that I would like to see whether somebody has thoughts about which of these names I've suggested a few here, or if they've got others in mind that would be better, just more descriptive of what we're trying to do. But a couple of my concerns are when we include history, and we have such a deep cultural history and, you know, Civil War history in the Valley, do we mislead people and they think it's going to be another, you know, battlefield site or something like that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
And I don't think so because of that word natural in there. And I think should stay away from those things that might give you more negative feelings of another battlefield.
yeah,
You have to keep those two
natural
together.
history.
Mhm.
And should we lead with that is the other question I have. Should we lead with natural history? Because that's the first thing people are going to be reading when they're driving down the interstate. Or should it be the Natural History Museum of Waynesboro or the Natural History Museum of the Shenandoah Valley? One concern that I've expressed this before is that Waynesboro is very, you know, it's a very specific locale. And I intend this museum to have a more regional focus and to attract people more broadly. So while I recognize that it's cited in Waynesboro, does it mislead people to think it's going to be a Waynesboro museum?
I think is it okay for me to speak
Yeah, unfortunately.
or not? I'm not supposed to speak. Is that right? I can't.
Yeah,
what
I'm
Joe said.
getting a no from the room here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Betty.
All
And
right.
I certainly would take your comments and maybe you can follow up with some afterwards. Again, this is just really to entertain whether I should do this in the public meetings coming up June 16th. So I'll take any input that you might have offline on that. Any other comments from the room, though?
One of the things I have been thinking about a lot is the idea of a logo. And how the traditional logo of the MNH would factor into a logo for this place. I think that, for example, when you mentioned the Frontier Culture Museum, one of the challenges that they have had from talking with them recently is, you know, they've gone through name changes over the years. So it was the American Frontier Culture Museum. It turned into, I don't know, there have been like 4 or 5 different names. And they've settled now on this logo that is highly visible, very simple, and it is now used in all of their materials. And it seems to be helping in terms of people understanding what they do. And so the notion of this facility having some kind of graphic that people recognize, that to me is a very important step forward. And I don't know where that falls within this process, but it seems to me that the more people get used to seeing something like that, they will start to make that connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about branding, and I don't think we're the ones to decide on the branding, but maybe, and I know that there's some expertise in the museum even. Recently, I think somebody was added who has some expertise in branding. And I agree with you, the logo has to go along with it. And I'm thinking maybe even if we name it something other than the Virginia Museum of Natural History, the tagline would be a campus of the Virginia Museum of Natural History, like, you know, the Ridge and Valley Interpretive Center, a campus of the Virginia Museum of Natural History. And one reason why I like the idea of Ridge and Valley or something is that's the ecoregion among the many ecoregions that exist in Virginia. There might ultimately be a Piedmont campus, and there might ultimately be a coastal plain campus. So this would be the Ridge and Valley campus. I'm just throwing ideas out there, so.
And I think it's important, Tom, that, you know, we continue to do that. I don't think we're at a point now where this has to be given a hard name at this point, but I will say there might be some thoughts out there that you know, want to be careful about limiting the geographic scope of the museum, even though, yes, there may be a Piedmont campus or a coastal plain campus or something like that. Certainly that would be a wonderful long-term goal for the Board of Trustees. All that said, you know, if this particular campus wants to touch on something that maybe extends beyond the Blue Ridge and kind of goes over into the Piedmont, it's just worth noting that we want to be careful about maybe being too limited. So we have to find that balance. The second thing I'll point out, just from internal conversation here in Martinsville, the team feels our brand is good. The Virginia Museum of Natural History is recognizable. The logo that we use is good. People will, you know, understand its meaning and so forth. So I just know internally from the professional staff that you know, preserving our brand and, you know, maybe going the route of a tagline or something like that may be a good possibility. But you know, certainly the discussion is warranted to keep that going, because we will need to find an elegant solution that will define what this is without it, you know, being confused. I'll just give you an example. I'm not trying to, it's just a different tact on things. I'm not trying to be critical here, but if you look at the Science Museum of Virginia, everyone knows the Science Museum of Virginia, but how many people really know that Danville Science Center is a branch of the Science Museum of Virginia? Nobody does. Right, they have a completely different logo. They pay for their logo development twice. They pay for their letterhead twice, right? All of that. And they're taking the same tact with the new STEM Center, or whatever they're calling it, up in Fairfax.
Northern Virginia,
yeah, so that's going to have a different name. I think it's going to have a different logo and everything like that. So it is a tact to take, a strategy. I think our team is making the recommendation that we, in some capacity, preserve the brand we've already built.
Yeah. And I understand that. And I agree that the name recognition is there. And then we also include Virginia, that we know it's a state agency as opposed to, you know, some local museum.
Right, right.
And if we stay with Virginia Museum of Natural History as what it says on the you know, the signage on the interstate, would there be confusion between where the Virginia Museum of Natural History is located if we've got one in Waynesboro and one in Martinsville, and does that cause any issues?
But one thing that might not hurt would be to get a short-term contract with a marketing company that maybe has successfully marketed other museums and
Yeah.
get some advice.
Yeah, I think that's the.
Okay, well,
That's
I thank you for indulging me in this conversation, because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I would appreciate any input you have. At this point, I don't think I will do the public office. I don't want to do it yet, if we still have some thoughts about it, but I'd appreciate any feedback you might have, even for those that are online and unable to share it at the meeting today. So,
And keep in mind, Tom, while we're doing this, a few of the names, and I know you were just kind of throwing some names out for consideration,
yeah,
as opposed to providing, the exact document that you might get input on. But all that said, some of those names are very similar to existing museums up closer to Winchester.
yes, Museum of the Shenandoah Valley comes to mind. We have
Yeah,
to be careful about that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the missions are different, right? Shenandoah Discovery Center is definitely transitioned towards a children's museum, and Museum of the Shenandoah Valley is really more about the people history than
Right.
anything else.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Next thing is an open discussion. We've got some items on there. I don't think any of those are action items, so certainly want to continue our advocacy. How many do we have currently signed up for receiving our newsletter? Do you know, Joe? Or
Right now.
Mary Zell?
We have a lot of number.
We have quite a lot, don't we? And I think we said all of our legislators are on there, so that's good. In terms of advocacy, we're gonna see some
We have 742 people.
742 people. Wow,
As of today.
that's great. Yeah, we have a changing political landscape. We know that all of our legislators are up for re-election or have decided not to run. So there's some things we're going to need to think about as we approach that changing political landscape. Of course, everybody is still in office until January anyway. So I think that still means we work with our current representatives and in advocating for this capital budget request to go into the biennium budget for the governors, the proposed governor's budget, right?
Yeah, we wanted in the proposed governor's budget.
Right. We have some upcoming events. Joe, I don't know if you want to run those down, or Jonathan.
It just is what it is. Mary Zell and I will be up in Grottos at it's Cave Week or something like that. So we're
Cave
gonna have,
Day.
National Cave Week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday, are you gonna be there Saturday?
Yeah,
Oh, I'll see you there.
yeah. So
well
why?
before. Yep, we'll
Good,
be up there. It should be a lot of fun.
yeah.
Klein's Ice Cream is also running an anniversary event or something. So I'm all about their blueberry shakes, so I'll be up there for that.
That's the end
Mary
of
Zell-
July or something, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll let everyone know when I'm coming up.
Yeah.
Mary Zell, maybe you can talk about Blue Ridge Rising.
Yes, DMNH is participating in Blue Ridge Rising, which is an initiative run by the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation. To solicit feedback from Parkway communities on how they can be a better resource for us. So I will be attending their Augusta County meeting next week, and be providing the information about DMNH.
Great.
And then
I
I don't know.
will say, if I could just throw in here, I was at Kate Collins Middle School a few weekends ago, and Christy Dethridge and help me with the name.
Terry
Terry.
Robinson.
Or Jordan.
Terry, we're at the table there distributing information. That was a great community event. It was for the rising sixth graders and their families. And so we got a lot of visits from kids and families and shared information about the museum. So that was another public event. And then I see Fall Foliage Festival on there too. We
do we have a
participated
date?
last year. Go ahead, Joe.
Do we know a date for Fall Foliage Fest?
I don't.
Okay, we'll get it.
October 14th.
Okay.
I will be in the Galapagos.
Wow.
We'll hold the fort down.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Mary Zell shared a flyer for the bus trip. Do you want to talk about that, Mary Zell?
It's just a draft of the flyer. Joe has not seen the flyer yet, so I don't want to leave any surprises. It's a flyer one of our interns created. He's doing some marketing work for us. That we have signups open for the bus trip. We're working with Ollie. We have sent them the registration information for them to reach out to their networks, and we'll also be pitching the bus trip to area Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs. And Joe can speak more to that.
Yeah. Where's Len? Can someone refresh my memory?
Len?
Yeah.
He's on vacation.
Till when?
He didn't mention in his email. I can follow up with him now.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, since he's out of pocket right now, what I'll do is I'll reach out to some of the people through the Rotary Club and Kiwanis and come on, Joe. But there's one other group. Mary's all mentioned Ollie. That we'll reach out to some of these contacts. AARP is another one that's interested. So we're just basically going to tell them that we will have the sign up going, first come, first serve, and looks like Len will be back on the 9th, so he can kind of do a follow-up as well when he returns. So we'll try to get the bus filled up. People can drive on their own. We'll just get an RSVP and a head count, and we'll of course use some of the foundation funds that we've raised to facilitate this visit. So I think the first one we had last year was really effective. Again, as you've heard me say before, I think when people hear about us, that's one thing, but when they actually come and visit and get to see firsthand what the quality of what we're proposing to bring to the table, you get a little different change in the attitude there. And if it wasn't mentioned, that bus trip is June 30th, which is a Friday.
Can I share this at the public office hour?
Yes, and I can send you more.
Send me a,
May I get together with you
Yes,
about
yes,
some language
yes.
change? Yeah, because there's definitely a language change that's
Yes.
needed in
Okay,
this.
will do.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we'll get through this one. We'll plan another one. We were looking at maybe doing a Saturday rather than Friday. School is out, so that's a benefit. But we're also kind of stuck with bus availability. That seems to be a moving target.
But we have signed a contract for this bus, so this bus is definitely coming and definitely.
Nice.
Yes.
and under the open discussion, the last thing is our July meeting. I will be out of town. So.
Yeah, I think we were talking about skipping the July meeting because there's so many people on vacation.
Oh, it's July 4th. Yeah, that definitely makes sense to.
I was going to recommend that either right before or right after, we just provide WAC kind of a written update as to what's going on. That might be anything we might learn about work with Riggs Ward, some of our work with advocacy, open hours, the events and so forth, and just make sure everyone's up to speed. So would that be satisfactory to the committee, Tom?
It is to me. Is there anybody in the room that has a problem with that? Okay. No, I don't see it being a problem. So let's go ahead and skip July, and then we're looking at August as our next meeting, and that would be August. Is it August 1st?
August 1st. First evening.
And it's full moon.
All right.
So,
Now, would that be virtual or in person? Since we're skipping over virtual, so you need to push it.
Yes.
Virtual.
okay. Oh, so that's good. We can have a virtual meeting. That works for me too. I'm gonna be probably here, but.
How does quorum work for all virtual meetings?
Still same number wise, you have to have over 50%.
Okay, got it.
And potentially maybe both more committee members by that point.
Yeah.
Right.
I have one other point I'd like to bring up, Tom.
Yes, Joe.
And I can talk with you offline about this, but I have worked with a couple other people to try to get some interest. these are people with particular skill sets that I wanted to have join the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee. And I have not met with success yet.
Okay,
So I mean, everyone loves the project.
right,
It's everyone, you know,
is committed to other things as well.
they're
Yeah.
committed or they're distant and they're concerned about their ability to participate. They don't want to be just a Zoom member, etc. You know, so that's kind of some of the hurdles we're running into. So
Right.
we may need to kind of rethink how we do this.
Okay, I knew you were working on that, yeah, so let's follow up offline.
Okay.
I guess, is there anything else that anybody wanted to share in the way of information for today? If not, then we are adjourned until August 1st. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. If I don't see you, have a great summer. I will be up and down, back and forth to Waynesboro. Mary Zell is kindly filling in while I've got tasks to do here for some of these events and so forth. But if there's anything that I can do and you want to meet or anything like that, I'm always happy to put that on the calendar.
Sounds good, and I'll see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys Saturday.
All right.
Yeah, Mark.
Bye, all.
Oh, Faye bailed before I could pressure her to go. So now, Mark, it's just you. You got to come Saturday and check out the case.